Hyun's hands trembled, something that never happened, as he stared at the photograph. His father, Dae-young Kang, the man he watched burn alive 3 years ago. Alive. The note beneath the photo was worse. "I'm watching. I'm coming. Prepare yourself." Amara walked into the office holding Zara, their 6-month-old daughter, babbling happily. She saw Hyun's face drain of color. "Hyun, what's wrong?" He couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, because if Dae-young Kang was alive, everything Hyun had built, his power, his peace, his family, was about to be torn apart. Welcome to K-Stories by Emma. Before we continue, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss any story. Hyun grabbed his phone immediately, dialing Gunwoo. "I need surveillance from Hong Kong, Vancouver, and every port of entry into Seattle for the last month. Now." What are we looking for? A ghost. Within 2 hours, footage arrived. Grainy security camera images from a Hong Kong hotel. A man in his late 50s, scarred face, moving like a predator. Then Vancouver, a private airstrip. The same man boarding a jet. Destination, Seattle. Hyun's mind raced back 3 years. The explosion, the fireball that consumed his father's armored car after a coordinated strike by rival families. They'd found remains, held a funeral. The empire transferred to Hyun legally, publicly, permanently. Except none of it was real. Dae-young had staged his own death, disappeared into the shadows while Hyun cleaned up the mess, rebuilt alliances, and legitimized operations his father would have burned to the ground. Now he was coming back to reclaim what he believed was stolen. Hyun called Min-seo into his office. "Dae-young's alive. He's on his way here." Min-seo's face went pale. "That's impossible. We saw what he wanted us to see." Hyun's voice was ice. "If he comes back, he'll kill everyone who stood against him, everyone who helped me take control. He'll see it as betrayal." From the doorway, Amara gasped softly. Hyun's head snapped toward her. She'd heard everything. "We need to run," Amara whispered, clutching Zara tighter. "Take Zara and disappear. Change our names. Go somewhere he'll never find us." Hyun crossed to her, cupping her face. "Running won't stop him. My father doesn't forgive. He doesn't forget. He'll hunt us to the ends of the earth just to prove he can." "Then what do? "We prepare for war." That afternoon, Hyun drove alone to his mother's estate in the hills. Hae-jin was in the garden, trimming roses with surgical precision. "You've heard," Hyun said. She didn't look up. "I always knew he wasn't dead. Your father doesn't die. He evolves, adapts, waits." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you needed to become what you are without his shadow. But now that shadow is returning, and he'll see Amara and that baby as weaknesses, leverage. He'll use them to control you or destroy you. He won't touch them. He will try." Hae-jin's voice was cold. "And you'll have to choose your father's approval or your family's survival. There's no middle ground with Dae-young." Hyun returned to the penthouse as the sun set. Amara had put Zara down for the night and was standing at the window, arms wrapped around herself. A black car pulled up to the building's entrance. Hyun's security moved to intercept, but the driver simply handed over a package and left. Gunwoo brought it up. "Address to you, no return address." Hyun opened it carefully. Inside, a small blanket, blue, worn, familiar. His blanket from childhood, the one his mother said was lost decades ago. Beneath it, a handwritten note in Korean. "I am coming home, son. Prepare her." Amara looked at the blanket, then at Hyun's face. "He knows about Zara," Amara whispered. Hyun's jaw clenched. He knows everything. Hyun packed Amara's bags himself before dawn. She woke to find him loading the car. "What are you doing?" "Moving you and Zara to a safe house, 20 miles outside the city, guarded perimeter, my most trusted men." Amara's eyes flashed. "You're locking us away?" "I'm keeping you alive." His voice was final. "My father doesn't negotiate. He eliminates threats, and right now you're the biggest threat to his control over me. I won't be your prisoner again, Hyun. Then be my living wife instead of my dead one." The safe house was a fortified estate hidden in the woods, concrete walls disguised as rustic architecture, cameras everywhere, armed guards rotating shifts. Amara hated it immediately. But she stayed. For Zara. Back in Seattle, Dae-Young Kong made his entrance like a king reclaiming his throne. He was older now, 63, face carved with new scars, left hand missing 2 fingers, but his presence filled rooms the way it always had, dangerous, absolute. He summoned the elder family to the traditional council chamber, 15 men who'd served under him, then under Hyun. I built this empire with blood and strategy, Dae-Young said, standing at the head of the table. My son has been caretaker during my absence. Now I've reclaimed what's mine. Silence. Then whispers. The elders divided instantly, older members remembering Dae-Young's iron rule, younger members loyal to Hyun's modernized approach. One elder spoke carefully. Hyun has led well, expanded territories, legitimized operations. Legitimized? Dae-Young's laugh was sharp. You mean weakened, softened, turned predators into businessmen. Another elder, bolder, he brought stability, respect. He brought sentiment. Dae-Young's eyes narrowed. I hear he's taken a black secretary as a lover, fathered a child with her. Is this true? The room went still. A black secretary? Dae-Young repeated, voice dripping contempt. With a child? This is what my son chose over a proper Korean alliance? Ye-jin entered the chamber then, moving with quiet authority. Your son saved this family while you played dead. He earned loyalty you only commanded through fear. And look where loyalty brought us, Dae-Young shot back. Weakness, mixed bloodlines, dishonor. The only dishonor here is yours. You abandoned us. I was protecting this empire from enemies who would have destroyed it. You were protecting yourself. Ye-jin's voice cut like steel. The confrontation everyone anticipated came that evening. Hyun walked into his father's commandeered office, his own office until 3 days ago, and found Dae-Young sitting behind the desk like he'd never left. You've grown soft, Dae-Young said without preamble. Love made you weak. Hyun met his father's gaze without flinching. Love made me human, something you never were. Humanity is a luxury leaders can't afford. Then maybe that's why you had to fake your death to survive. Hyun's voice was cold. Real leaders don't run. Dae-Young stood. For a moment, violence hung between them like static electricity. I'm taking back control, Dae-Young said. The woman and child are liabilities. They'll be dealt with. Touch them, and I'll finish what your enemies started 3 years ago. Dae-Young smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. There's my son. I was worried you'd forgotten how to threaten. While the Kongs fractured internally, external enemies took notice. In a dark bar across town, Alexei Volkov's younger brother, Victor, received a call. Dae-Young Kong is back. The family's divided. Hyun's distracted. Victor smiled. Then it's time we remind them why they fear the Volkov name. At the safe house, Amara rocked Zara to sleep, exhaustion pulling at her. She heard it around midnight. Footsteps. Too quiet. Too careful. Her pulse spiked. She grabbed Zara from the crib and moved to the panic room Hyun had shown her. The bedroom door opened slowly. A figure stepped inside. Tall, familiar silhouette. Amara's breath caught. It was Minso. But Minso was supposed to be with Hyun in the city. He looked at her, face twisted with something like regret. I'm sorry, but he gave me no choice. Amara stepped back, pressing Zara against her chest. What are you doing here, Mincio? He raised his hands slowly, showing he was unarmed. Dae-Young sent me. He wants to meet you, alone. Why would I trust anything from that man? Because if you don't, Hyun dies. Mincio's voice cracked. Dae-Young has men positioned at 3 locations Hyun frequents. The moment you refuse, they get the order. Hyun won't see it coming. Amara's mind raced. You're lying. I wish I was. Mincio pulled out his phone, showed her a live feed, Hyun entering his downtown office building, unaware of the figures watching from rooftops across the street. He gave me 2 hours. After that, the order stands whether you come or not. How long have you been working for him? Mincio's face twisted with shame. Since before Dae-young's death. He placed me in Hyun's inner circle 5 years ago. Everything your husband thought was secure, every plan, every move, every secret, Dae-young knew it all. I reported everything. The betrayal hit like a fist to the gut. Mincio had been there through everything, the tribunal, the pregnancy, the threats, every vulnerable moment. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm tired of being his weapon, Mincio's voice dropped. But I'm more afraid of what he'll do if I stop. Please, meet with him, hear him out. Maybe you can end this without more blood. Amara's instincts screamed to refuse, but the image of Hyun, unaware and exposed, burned in her mind. I need guarantees. You won't get them, but you have my word I'll protect Zara while you're gone. No, Amara's voice was steel. Gun-woo takes her. You stay away from my daughter. 15 minutes later, Gun-woo arrived, confusion and alarm warring on his face as Amara explained. She handed Zara over, then disappeared into her room. She recorded a message on her phone, hands shaking. Hyun, if you're watching this, something's gone wrong. I need you to know I love you. I love what we built. But if Dae-yeon takes me, don't come after me. Protect Zara. Live for her. That's all that matters now. Promise me. She sent it on a delay, 2 hours from now, enough time to meet Dae-young and return, or enough time for Hyun to prepare if she didn't. The hotel was downtown, neutral territory, 23rd floor, private suite. Amara entered alone, heart hammering against her ribs. Dae-young Kang sat in a leather chair by the window, whiskey in hand, surveying Seattle like he owned every brick and beam. He was older than his photos suggested, harder, scars tracked across his neck, disappearing beneath his collar. His eyes were Hyun's eyes, but colder, emptied of anything resembling mercy. So, you're the woman who ruined my son, Dae-young said without turning. I'm the woman who saved him. He finally looked at her, assessing, calculating. You're prettier than I expected. I can see why he lost focus. He didn't lose anything. He gained everything. Dae-young's laugh was harsh. You made him weak, sentimental. He used to be a weapon. Now he's a man who hesitates. That hesitation will kill him. Or it'll keep him human. Humanity is a weakness leaders can't afford. Dae-young set down his glass. Here's my offer. Leave Seattle. Take the child. I'll transfer $10 million to any account you want. Disappear. Let Hyun rebuild without distractions. Amara's jaw tightened. I'm not for sale. Everyone is for sale. You just haven't heard the right price yet. He leaned forward. 20 million? 30? Name it. There's no amount that would make me abandon my family. Family. Dae-young spat the word like poison. You've been family for what, 2 years? I built Hyun for 31. My claim is stronger. Your claim is blood. Mine is choice. He chose me. And I'll make him unchoose you. Amara felt it then, the shift in the air. She'd been so focused on Dae-young, she hadn't noticed the sounds from the hallway. Footsteps, too many. She moved toward the door, locked from the outside. What did you do? Dae-young smiled. I set a trap. Not for you, you're just bait, but for my son. Let's see if he still has the instincts I beat into him as a boy. Through the window, Amara saw figures moving on the street below, men taking positions, Volkov tattoos visible even from this height. You're working with the Volkovs? I'm using them. There's a difference. Amara's phone buzzed. A text from Hyun. On my way. Hold on. He's coming, Dae-young said, reading her face. Good. Now we'll see what he values more, his empire or his heart. Downstairs, tires squealed as 3 black SUVs pulled up. Hyun emerged, Gun-woo and 8 armed men flanking him. He looked up at the building, and all hell broke loose. Gunfire shattered the evening calm. Hyun moved through the lobby like a force of nature, his injured back screaming with every step, but rage numbing the pain. Volkov operatives opened fire from the mezzanine. Hyun's men returned it, the hotel lobby transforming into a war zone. Glass shattered, marble cracked. Civilians screamed and fled. Gun-woo covered Hyun's advance. 23rd floor, suite 2304. Hyun didn't wait for the elevator. He took the stairs, weapon drawn, Gun-woo and 2 others behind him. They hit resistance on the 15th floor, 3 of Dae-young's mercenaries. Hyun didn't slow. He fired twice, dropped 2, and used the 3rd as a shield while Gun-woo cleared the stairwell. His body was failing. The old injury, the shattered vertebrae, the nerve damage, flared with every impact. But Amara was 23 floors up, with a man who saw her as disposable. Nothing else mattered. He reached the 23rd floor. Suite 2304's door was reinforced steel. Hyun didn't bother knocking. He signaled Gun-woo, who planted a breaching charge. The explosion blew the door off its hinges. Hyun entered, weapon raised. Dae-young stood by the window, arm wrapped around Amara's throat, pistol pressed to her temple. "Let her go," Hyun said, voice deadly calm. "This is between us." "Everything is between us." Dae-young's smile was cruel. "I made you, forged you from nothing into something feared. I can unmake you just as easily. You made a weapon. I became a man. There's a difference." "Is there?" Dae-young tightened his grip on Amara. She gasped, but didn't struggle. "Because the man I see now is weak, compromised, pathetic." Hyun's finger rested on the trigger. One shot, center mass. His father would drop. But so would Amara. "You want to know why I faked my death?" Dae-young continued, voice cold. "Rivals were closing in. The old families, the federal investigators, the rivals I'd spent decades crushing. They were coordinating. I needed to disappear, let them think they'd won, then rebuild from the shadows. You abandoned us. I saved us. I planned to return when you were ready to lead properly, but instead I find you've chosen sentiment over strength, love over legacy." Dae-young's lip curled. "You dishonored everything I built for a woman who means nothing." "I mean everything to him," Amara said, voice steady despite the gun at her head. "And that's what you'll never understand." Dae-young laughed, harsh, bitter. "Love is weakness, and I'll prove it right now." He shifted the gun from Amara's temple to point at Hyun. "Choose, son. Kill me, take back your empire, prove you're still the man I trained, or save her and lose everything I built. You can't have both." Hyun's weapon didn't waver. "You're wrong." "Am I?" Dae-young's eyes glittered. "Then pull the trigger. Show me you're still my blood." Hyun aimed directly at his father's head. His finger began to squeeze. "No!" Minseo burst through the destroyed doorway, weapon raised, not at Hyun, but at Dae-young. "I'm done being your puppet," Minseo shouted. "Done watching you destroy everyone who gets close." Dae-young's attention split for half a second. Minseo fired. The shot went wide but forced Dae-young to release Amara and dive for cover. Hyun moved instantly, pulling Amara behind him, returning fire. Chaos erupted. Dae-young's backup, 2 mercenaries who'd been positioned outside, stormed in. Gun-woo engaged them. Minseo advanced on Dae-young. A shot rang out. Minseo staggered, blood blooming across his chest. He'd stepped between Dae-young's gun and Hyun without hesitation. He collapsed. Hyun caught him, lowering him to the floor, while Gun-woo and his men drove Dae-young toward the window. Dae-young fired twice more, shattering glass, then disappeared through the window onto the fire escape. Wounded, Gun-woo had clipped his shoulder, but alive. "Go after him!" someone shouted. "No," Hyun ordered. "Secure Amara, get her out." He turned back to Minseo, whose breathing was shallow, blood pooling beneath him. "I'm sorry." Mincio choked out. For everything. For betraying you. For not being stronger. You were strong enough when it mattered, Hyun said quietly. Protect what matters, Mincio whispered, eyes glazing. I should have. From the beginning, I should have. His voice faded. His eyes stopped seeing. Hyun closed them gently, jaw tight. Gunwoo approached. Boss, Daeong's gone, but he made a call before he disappeared. To who? To the elders, emergency council. He's invoking the old laws. Hyun's blood went cold. The old laws. Trial by succession. Father versus son. Winner takes everything. Loser loses everything, including their life. Daeong wasn't retreating. He was escalating. And this time, only one of them would walk away. The emergency council convened at dawn in the Kang family estate's ancestral hall, a place where decisions were made in blood and tradition, not mercy. 15 elders sat in a semicircle. Daeyoung stood on one side, bandaged but defiant. Hyun on the other, exhausted but unbroken. The eldest councilman spoke in formal Korean. Daeyoung Kang has invoked the old laws, trial by succession. When leadership is contested between blood, both must prove their right to rule. The trial lasts 72 hours. At the end, we vote. Winner takes the empire. Loser is exiled or eliminated. Hyun's jaw tightened. I won't play his game. Then you forfeit, Daeyoung said smoothly. Everything you built returns to me by default. Your alliances dissolve, your reforms reverse, and your family becomes irrelevant. Hyejin stepped forward from the gallery. If you refuse, you lose everything without a fight. He wins because you were too proud to compete. Amara, standing beside Hyun despite protests, touched his arm. Then we fight, together. Hyun looked at her, then at his father, then at the elders. I accept. The rules were ancient but clear. This wasn't gladiatorial combat, it was a test of leadership. Each man had 72 hours to prove who commanded more loyalty, more respect, more strategic vision. They would present evidence of their leadership capabilities, demonstrate their alliances, and make their case. At the end, the elders would vote. Daeyoung had advantages. The old guard remembered his ruthless effectiveness. He'd already contacted former allies, promising a return to the brutal efficiency that had built the empire. Worse, he'd made a deal with the remaining Volkov forces. Help him reclaim power, and Seattle's underworld would reopen to Russian operations. But Hyun had something Daeyoung never possessed: genuine respect. The alliances he'd built weren't based on fear. The Italian families trusted his word. Reformed operations thrived under his leadership. Even former rivals acknowledged his fairness. And he had Amara. She spent the first 12 hours making calls, reaching out to every contact Hyun had cultivated. Her voice was calm, persuasive, strategic. This isn't just about Hyun. It's about whether we move forward or backward. Daeyoung represents the old way, brutal, unstable, unsustainable. Hyun represents evolution. One by one, allies pledged support. Cultural tension ran high. Some elders saw Amara's involvement as inappropriate, a woman, an outsider, speaking on family matters. Others saw her as Hyun's greatest asset. Hyejin made her position public during a family gathering. My son built something his father couldn't. Loyalty based on respect, not terror. And this woman, she gestured to Amara, is part of that strength. This is the future. Adapt or die. The room divided further. Day 1 of the trial arrived. The elders reconvened. Each man would present evidence of their leadership capabilities. Daeyoung went first. He displayed financial records showing increased profits during his original reign. He presented testimonials from old guard members praising his decisiveness. He spoke of legacy, tradition, strength through fear. Then he dropped his weapon. "My son authorized a shipment 3 months ago," Dayoung said, pulling up documents. 10 containers. He listed them as medical supplies, but I've obtained the manifests. He projected images, crates of food, medicine, water purification systems. He sent humanitarian aid to a conflict zone, Dayoung continued, voice dripping contempt. Used family resources for charity. This is what leadership has become under him, soft, sentimental, weak. Murmurs rippled through the elders. Some nodded approvingly at Hyun's compassion, others frowned, seeing waste. Hyun felt support waver. Dayoung smiled, and the real battle had only just begun. Day 1 ended with uncertainty. Day 2 began with revelation. Haejin requested a private audience with the elders before the formal proceedings. They gathered in a smaller chamber, curious and wary. "You need to understand why Dayoung faked his death," Haejin began, her voice steady and cold. "He didn't do it to protect this family. He did it to avoid accountability for deals that would have destroyed us." She placed a folder on the table. Inside, bank transfers, encrypted communications, meeting logs. 3 years ago, Dayoung was negotiating with federal prosecutors. He planned to give them intel on rival families and portions of our own operations in exchange for immunity. He was going to dismantle what took generations to build, just to save himself. Shocked silence. When his partners discovered his betrayal, they tried to eliminate him. The car explosion was real, but Dayoung had already arranged his escape. He let us think he was dead while he rebuilt power in secret, waiting to return when the heat died down. An elder leaned forward. "Can you prove this?" "Every document is authenticated. Check the dates, the signatures, the account numbers." Dayoung stormed into the chamber, face twisted with rage. "She's lying. Desperate to keep her son in power, she'll say anything." "These are your accounts," Haejin said calmly. "Your signature, your deals. Forgeries, fabrications from a bitter ex-wife who never forgave me for putting duty over marriage." The elders looked between them, unable to determine truth from accusation. Then the door opened again. Tasha Bennett walked in, Kamari beside her. The room went still. No one had expected Amara's family. Tasha spoke in English, an elder translating into Korean. "I don't know your traditions, I don't understand your codes, but I know men. I lost my husband to this family's violence. For years I hated everyone with the Kang name." She looked directly at Hyun. "But that man faced me, apologized for sins that weren't entirely his, earned my respect through action, not words." Then she turned to Dayoung. "That man is a coward who hides behind tradition and power. He sent people to threaten my daughter, to use my grandbaby as leverage. He's not a leader, he's a tyrant." Kamari stepped forward, voice clear. "Hyun Kang saved my life, paid off debts that would have gotten me killed, never asked for anything in return. He didn't have to help me, I was nobody to him, but he did it because it was right." He met Dayoung's cold stare. "Hyun leads with honor. His father only knows fear. I know which one I'd follow." The tide began to shift. Younger elders nodded. The old guard remained skeptical but less certain. That afternoon, support began consolidating around Hyun. 3 elders who'd been neutral declared for him. 2 of Dayoung's loyalists wavered. Dayoung saw it happening, felt control slipping. That evening, he played his final card. "If I lose this trial," Dayoung announced to the full council, "I will expose every illegal operation this family has ever conducted. Bank accounts, roots, partners, I'll hand it all to the FBI, Interpol, every agency that's ever investigated us. The empire burns to the ground." Mutually assured destruction. The elders went pale. Even Hyun's supporters hesitated. Hyun stood slowly. "Then let it burn." Every head turned. I'd rather build something new and clean than inherit your corruption, Hyun continued, voice unwavering. You think that threat gives you power? It shows exactly why you're unfit to lead. Real leaders don't hold their own family hostage. Dae-young's eyes blazed. You're willing to destroy everything? I'm willing to let go of everything built on blood and lies, yes. The room erupted in argument. Some elders supported Hyun's boldness, others called it reckless suicide. Day 2 ended with the council in chaos. The vote remained tied, 7-7 with one abstention. Day 3 would decide everything. Hyun returned to the safe house that night, exhausted but resolute. He needed to see Amara and Zara, to remember what he was fighting for. Gunwoo met him at the entrance, face ashen. Boss, there's been a breach. Hyun's blood turned to ice. He ran inside. The nursery was empty. Zara's crib overturned, windows shattered, security cameras disabled. On the pillow, a note in block letters. Withdraw from the trial or you'll never see her again. You have until dawn. Amara stood in the doorway, trembling, tears streaming down her face. Their daughter was gone. Hyun's phone buzzed at 3 a.m., an encrypted message. A photo loaded slowly, pixel by agonizing pixel. Zara, crying, terrified, held by gloved hands in a dark room. Below the image, withdraw by dawn, or she dies. Amara saw it and collapsed. Hyun caught her, both of them sinking to the floor. We have to do what they say, Amara sobbed. We can't risk her. Please, Hyun, please just give them what they want. We won't risk her, Hyun's voice was steel wrapped in fury, but we also won't surrender. He made 3 calls. Gunwoo, his best tech analyst, a contact in the Seattle PD who owed him. Trace everything, the photo, the message, I don't care how you do it, find my daughter. 40 minutes later, his analyst called back. Got it. Photo metadata wasn't fully scrubbed, taken with a burner phone, but the location services pinged a cell tower near the waterfront, narrowed it to a 3-block radius. Gunwoo pulled up satellite imagery. Abandoned warehouse, former shipping depot, registered to a shell company, Volkov front. Hyun was already moving, strapping on body armor, checking weapons. You're not going alone, Amara said. You're staying here where it's... That's my daughter. Her voice cracked, but didn't break. I'm coming. Hyun knew better than to argue. They assembled a team, 6 of Hyun's most trusted, all former military or special operations. They moved fast and silent through the pre-dawn darkness. The warehouse loomed ahead, corrugated metal and broken windows. Q guards outside. Gunwoo dropped them both with suppressed shots before they could raise alarm. Inside, the space was cavernous, shipping containers stacked like a maze. Then they heard it, a baby crying. Hyun's heart lurched. He moved toward the sound, team fanning out to cover angles. They found her in a corner office, 2nd floor, Zara in a makeshift crib, 3 Volkov operatives standing guard, and 1 man in a Kang family suit, one of Dae-young's loyalists. The traitor saw them first. They're here! Gunfire erupted. Hyun moved on instinct despite his screaming back, dropping 2 Volkovs before they could fully react. Gunwoo took the 3rd. The Kang traitor fled through a side exit. Hyun reached Zara, scooping her up. She was terrified but unharmed. I've got her, he shouted to Amara. Get to the extraction point. Movement from the shadows. Another Volkov operative, hidden, weapon trained on Hyun. Amara appeared from nowhere, putting herself between the gun and their family. The operative hesitated. Fatal mistake. But someone else didn't. The shot came from the side. Hyun felt the impact like a sledgehammer to his ribs. Body armor caught most of it, but the force drove him to his knees. Zara tumbled from his arms. Amara caught their daughter, rolled, shielded Zara with her own body. The hidden shooter emerged, another Volkov, bleeding from Gunwoo's earlier shot but still mobile. He aimed at Amara and Zara. Time crystallized. Hyun, on the ground, couldn't reach his weapon in time. Gunwoo was reloading. The Volkov's finger tightened on the trigger. Amara's hand found Hyun's dropped pistol. She'd never fired a gun before, never wanted to, but her daughter was crying in her arms, and a man was about to kill them both. She raised the weapon, aimed, and pulled the trigger. The recoil shocked her, the sound deafened her. The Volkov operative dropped, a hole in his chest, shock frozen on his face. Amara stared at what she'd done, at the body, at the gun in her shaking hands. Then Zara's cries brought her back. "We need to go," Gunwoo shouted, helping Hyun to his feet. Hyun was bleeding through the armor, ribs cracked, possibly worse, but he was moving. They extracted under covering fire, reached the vehicles, and drove straight to Hyun's private medical facility. Emergency surgery, 3 cracked ribs, internal bleeding, touch and go for 2 hours. But he survived. When Hyun awoke 12 hours later, Amara sat beside him, Zara sleeping in her arms. "You came for us," she whispered. "Always." News of what happened spread through the criminal underworld like wildfire. Dae-young had crossed a line no one forgave, using a child as leverage. Even his most loyal supporters turned away. The old guard elders, who'd respected his ruthlessness, found this beyond acceptable. Hejin confronted him in the ancestral hall that evening. "You've lost," she said simply. "Not because you're weak, because you're inhuman. There are codes even monsters follow. You broke them all." Dae-young's face was stone. "I did what was necessary. You did what was unforgivable." Day 3 arrived. Hyun shouldn't have been there. He could barely stand, each breath sending fire through his chest, but he refused to miss the final vote. Amara helped him into the council chamber. The elders rose when they entered, a sign of respect they'd never shown before. Dae-young stood on the opposite side, alone, abandoned even by those who'd supported him. The eldest councilman spoke. "The trial is concluded. We will now vote." Hyun stood with Amara beside him, Gunwoo behind them, and the weight of everyone he'd ever protected at his back. Dae-young stood with no one. The verdict was about to be announced, and everyone in that room already knew how it would end. The eldest councilman stood, holding a sealed envelope containing the written votes. The room held its breath. "We have deliberated according to the old laws. The trial by succession is complete." He opened the envelope. "The vote is as follows." He read each ballot aloud. Hyun Kang, Hyun Kang, Hyun Kang. 12 times. 12 votes for Hyun. 3 abstentions. 0 votes for Dae-young Kang. The silence was absolute. It wasn't just a victory, it was a rejection so complete it erased any question of legitimacy. Dae-young's face remained carved from stone, but something behind his eyes died. "Per the old laws," the councilman continued, "Dae-young Kang is hereby exiled from the family, stripped of name, resources, and protection. He will leave Seattle within 24 hours and not return under penalty of death." Dae-young laughed, bitter, hollow. "You'll regret this, all of you. I built this empire from nothing, and you're throwing it away for sentiment." "You built it on fear," Hyun said quietly, each word costing him pain. "I survived it. You won't break me twice." Dae-young stepped closer, ignoring the guards who moved to intercept. "You think you've won? You've just painted a target on everyone you love. My enemies, the ones I kept at bay through fear, will come for her, for that child, and you won't always be there to stop them." Hyun met his father's gaze without flinching. "Then I'll die trying, which is more than you ever did for anyone." For a moment, something almost human flickered across Dae-young's face. Regret, perhaps, or recognition of the son he could have had if he'd chosen differently. Then it was gone. "I hope your love keeps you warm when your world burns." Guards escorted him out. He didn't resist, didn't look back. A car waited outside, unmarked, windows tinted, destination unknown. He'd be watched, tracked, but alive, powerless, a ghost. For a man like Dae-young Kang, that was worse than death. The moment he was gone, Hyun's knees buckled. Gunwoo caught him before he hit the floor. "Boss!" "I'm fine," Hyun gasped, but blood seeped through his shirt. The internal injuries, the stress, the sheer force of will that had kept him standing, it all gave way at once. Get the medical team, Amara screamed. Zara clutched to her chest. Now! They rushed him to the private surgical suite in the estate's medical wing. Doctors swarmed. Amara tried to follow, but they stopped her at the doors. You can't be in there, a nurse said gently. That's my husband. And we'll do everything we can, but you need to wait here. The doors closed. Amara sank into a chair in the hallway, Zara whimpering against her shoulder. Minutes became hours. Hyejin appeared, silent, and sat beside her. He's stronger than he looks, Hyejin said quietly. He has to be. Amara's voice broke. We need him. I need him. Hyejin took her hand, said nothing, just held on. 4 hours passed. Finally, the surgical doors opened. The lead surgeon emerged, still in scrubs, mask pulled down. His face was drawn, exhausted, grim. Amara stood on shaking legs. Is he... We did everything we could, the surgeon said slowly, but there were complications. The internal bleeding was worse than we thought. We had to remove his spleen, and one of his kidneys was damaged beyond repair. He paused. Amara stopped breathing. Is he alive? She whispered. He's alive, the surgeon said finally, but barely. The next 48 hours are critical. Amara's legs gave out. Hyejin caught her. Alive. That was enough. It had to be enough. The recovery was brutal. Hyun spent 3 weeks in intensive care, his body fighting to heal from trauma stacked on top of old injuries. The spinal damage from years ago, now aggravated, the missing spleen, the damaged kidney, every system stressed to its limit. When he finally woke, Amara was there, Zara sleeping in a bassinet beside the bed. Hey, she whispered, tears streaming. Hyun's voice was rough. Did we win? We won. He closed his eyes, exhaled slowly. Good. Physical therapy started immediately, relearning to walk without his body screaming in protest, rebuilding strength that had been stripped away. Now Amara was the one helping him stand, holding him when he stumbled, refusing to let him give up when the pain became too much. You should have left me, Hyun said one night, voice raw with frustration after a particularly difficult session. Found someone whole, someone who doesn't come with this much damage. Amara cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. You are whole. You're just healing. There's a difference. I'm broken, Amara. You're human. That's what I fell in love with. Zara became the light cutting through the darkness. Her first laugh, her first attempts to crawl, the way she reached for Hyun with complete trust, unaware of the violence that had surrounded her short life. Hyun learned to be a father, not a leader making strategic decisions, not a weapon ready for deployment, just a dad who made funny faces and sang off-key lullabies and held his daughter like she was made of glass. She's going to be stubborn, Hyun said one evening, watching Zara determinedly try to grab a toy just out of reach. She gets it from both of us, Amara replied. While Hyun healed, the business couldn't wait. He began the slow process of legitimizing operations, shutting down the illegal components, the gray market dealings, the underground networks, everything that existed in shadows. It was costly. Some allies walked away, unwilling to operate in the light. Revenue dropped initially, but new partnerships formed, legal enterprises, tech investments, real estate development, international trade through proper channels. Amara stepped into roles she'd never imagined. She negotiated with business partners, managed crises, represented the family in meetings Hyun couldn't yet attend. She was no longer the invisible secretary who kept her head down and survived. She was co-leader, respected, even feared when necessary. The Kang family, initially resistant, slowly came to accept her, not as an outsider who'd seduced their heir, but as someone essential to their survival. Hyejin said it plainly one afternoon. You've done what I couldn't. You made him better. Not just stronger, better. Hyun made himself better. I just reminded him he could. External threats dissolved. The remaining Volkov operations were driven out of Seattle permanently. Other families, seeing Hyen's transition to legitimacy, followed suit or fell away. Seattle's underworld, once a battlefield, became stable. 1 year after the trial, Hyen could walk without assistance. The pain was manageable, his range of motion limited but functional. They were planning Zara's first birthday party, something normal, joyful, untouched by violence. Then a package arrived. No return address, just their names. Inside, an old key, brass, worn, and a note written in precise handwriting. When you're ready to know the whole truth about your father's death and who really ordered it, come to this address. The answers will change everything you think you know. A friend. Below the note, coordinates, a location in the city's industrial district. Hyen stared at the key, memories flooding back. His father's car exploding, the funeral, the assumption that rivals had finally succeeded. But what if it wasn't rivals? What if someone closer had wanted Dae-young gone? Amara read the note over his shoulder. It could be a trap. Probably is, Hyen agreed. Are you going? He looked at her, at Zara playing with blocks across the room, at the life they'd built from ashes. I need to know, he said quietly, even if the truth destroys me. Then we go together, Amara said. Whatever we find, we face it together. Hyen nodded. The past wasn't finished with them yet. The address led to a private bank in downtown Seattle. The key opened a safety deposit box registered under a false name, one Hyun recognized from his father's old operations. Inside, files, recordings, financial documents, evidence carefully preserved for years. Hyun and Amara spread everything across a secure table in Gun-woo's surveillance room. The first document made Hyun's blood run cold. A signed agreement between Dae-young Kang and Sojin Kang, dated 4 months before the assassination. They'd planned it together. The death was staged from the beginning, Hyun said, voice hollow. Sojin helped him fake it. They orchestrated the entire thing. More documents revealed the full scope. Dae-young and Sojin had intended Hyun to be a temporary figurehead, someone to stabilize operations while they rebuilt power from the shadows. Once the heat died down, they'd return and reclaim control. But Hyun had proven too effective, too independent. He'd modernized operations, built genuine alliances, earned loyalty they could only command through fear. So the partnership fractured. Sojin tried to undermine Hyun from within. Dae-young waited in exile, watching, planning his own return. They'd turned on each other as much as they'd conspired against Hyun. I need to see him, Hyun said. Sojin was serving 20 years in federal prison for financial crimes. Hyun arranged a visit through channels he'd rather not have used. They met in a private room, glass partition between them. Sojin looked older, diminished by incarceration, but his eyes still held that calculating sharpness. Nephew, come to gloat? Come to understand? There's nothing to understand. I helped your father because I thought you were weak, sentimental, unfit. Sojin leaned forward. I was wrong. You're the most dangerous Kang of all, because you make people believe you care. I do care. That's what makes you dangerous. Hyun slid copies of the documents through the slot. Tell me about Marcus Bennett. Sojin's expression shifted. Surprise, then resignation. You found those. Tell me. Sojin sighed. Bennett wasn't killed just for stumbling onto shipping routes. He found evidence of what your father and I were planning. We were going to sell intelligence to international rivals, leverage the family's position for personal wealth, then disappear before anyone realized what we'd done. Hyun's hands clenched. You were going to betray the entire family? We were going to survive. Bennett was going to expose us, so we eliminated the threat. He was an innocent man trying to do the right thing. He was collateral damage. Sojin's voice was cold. Just like you were supposed to be. Hyun stood. Enjoy the next 18 years. He left without looking back. Amara read the full documents that night, tears streaming down her face. Her father hadn't just witnessed something he shouldn't have, he'd tried to stop a conspiracy that would have destroyed hundreds of lives. He died a hero, not a victim. The next morning, Amara, Hyun, and Zara visited Marcus Bennett's grave in Tacoma. The headstone was simple, weathered by 8 years of Pacific Northwest rain. Amara knelt, placing flowers at the base. "You tried to stop them, Dad," she whispered. "We finished what you started." Hyun stood behind her, hand on her shoulder, Zara in his arms. "He'd be proud of you," Hyun said quietly. "I hope so." Among the documents was one final revelation: Dae-young's current location, Bangkok, Thailand, living under an assumed identity in a modest apartment, powerless and forgotten. Hyun had the resources to find him, to end him, but that night, lying in bed with Amara, he made a different choice. "I could send someone, finish this permanently. Do you want to?" Hyun was quiet for a long time. "Part of me does, the part he created, but killing him makes me him. I won't give him that power." "So we let him live?" "We let him rot, alone, forgotten. For a man like my father, that's worse than death. He built his identity on power and fear. Now he has neither. He's already dead. He just hasn't stopped breathing yet." Amara curled against him. "I love you for that choice. I made it for us, for Zara, for the life we're building." 2 years passed. The legitimate empire flourished. Zara grew into a bright, fearless toddler. Hyun's health stabilized. Amara expanded their humanitarian foundation in her father's name. Life became something neither of them had believed possible: peaceful. Then, on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, Hyun received a call. A contact in Bangkok, voice neutral. "Dae-young Kang is dead. Heart attack, natural causes, no foul play. Thought you'd want to know." Hyun hung up, stood at the window overlooking Seattle. Felt nothing. No relief, no grief, just emptiness where his father used to live in his mind. Amara found him there. "What's wrong?" "He's dead. My father. Natural causes." She took his hand. "How do you feel?" Like a chapter finally closed. He turned to her. "It's over. Really over." For the first time in his life, Hyun Kang was free. 3 years after the trial, the Kang Empire looked nothing like it had under Dae-young's rule. Hyun's office overlooked Elliott Bay, but the atmosphere was different now. Natural light, open doors, employees who smiled instead of flinched. The family business was fully legitimate: tech investments in emerging markets, sustainable real estate development, international trade through proper channels. Clean money, clean conscience. Amara ran the foundation they'd established in Marcus Bennett's name: community centers in underserved neighborhoods, scholarship programs for kids like Kamari had been, housing assistance for families like hers once was. She was using their wealth to heal the communities her father's death had been part of breaking. Zara was 4 now, bright-eyed, endlessly curious, completely loved. She spoke 3 languages fluently: English with her mother and grandmother Tasha, Korean with her father and grandmother Hejin, Swahili because Amara wanted her to know that part of her heritage too. She was a bridge between worlds, carrying the best of both families. She knew nothing of the violence that had preceded her birth, only that her parents loved each other fiercely, that family gatherings were loud and full of laughter, that she was safe. Family dynamics had shifted in unexpected ways. Tasha visited Seattle monthly now. She and Hejin had formed an unlikely friendship: 2 women who'd loved difficult men and survived them, finding common ground in protecting the next generation. Kamari had graduated college with honors, married his college sweetheart, a quiet, brilliant woman who worked in environmental law, and now managed the legitimate operations community outreach. The family was whole, blended, complicated in ways that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago, but whole. Late one night, Hyun found Amara on the balcony, lost in thought. "Do you miss it?" she asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "The danger, the adrenaline?" Hyun was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes. There's a part of me that was built for that world. It doesn't just disappear." "Does that scare you?" "No. Because then I come home to you and Zara and I remember what I was really fighting for. Not power, not legacy, just this, just us. He turned to face her. I'd trade every dangerous moment for one quiet evening with you. The next morning, Hyun drove alone to a cemetery outside the city, to a grave he visited every few months. Min Seal's headstone was simple. No family name, no titles, just his name and dates. Hyun knelt, placing fresh flowers. You were right, he said quietly. Protect what matters. I did. I am. Thank you for giving me the chance. The wind rustled through the trees. Hyun stayed a few more minutes, then drove home. That evening, Amara found him in his study. I need to tell you something, she said, nervous energy radiating from her. Hyun looked up, instantly alert. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. She smiled, tears forming. I'm pregnant. Time stopped. You're... About 8 weeks. I wanted to be sure before I said anything. Hyun crossed to her, hands gentle on her face. A son or daughter? Too early to tell, but she placed his hand on her still flat stomach. I have a feeling it's a boy. Hyun's eyes glistened. Another chance to do it right. You already are doing it right, Amara said firmly. You're an amazing father. I want to be better, for both of them. You will be. 6 months later, the Bennett Kang Foundation held its annual gala, a celebration of the community programs they'd established, showcasing young people they'd helped, honoring local heroes. Amara, visibly pregnant now, stood beside Hyun as cameras flashed. They were no longer hiding, no longer operating in shadows. This was their life now, public, legitimate, built on love instead of fear. Hyun scanned the crowd out of habit, old instincts never fully disappearing. Then he saw a face that made his blood run cold. Alexei Volkov, standing near the back, not threatening, not advancing, just watching. Their eyes met across the room. Alexei raised his glass slightly, acknowledgement, not challenge, then turned and disappeared into the crowd. Hyun's hand found Amara's. What is it? She asked. Nothing, he said. Just a ghost. But they both knew. The past never fully disappeared. It just learned to coexist with the present. Hyun excused himself from the gala and followed Alexei outside to the empty terrace. What are you doing here? Hyun's voice was low, controlled. Alexei turned, hands visible, non-threatening. I need help. You've got nerve showing your face after everything. My brother was taken, Alexei's voice cracked. Human traffickers, Eastern European network. They're moving him out of the country in 72 hours. I've exhausted every contact I have. You're the only one with resources and connections to find him. Hyun studied the man who'd once tried to kill him, saw genuine desperation. Why would I help you? Because you're better than me, better than your father, better than all of us. Hyun's jaw tightened. And because you understand what it means to protect family. Hyun was silent for a long moment. Amara appeared in the doorway. She'd seen them talking, sensed the tension. What's going on? Hyun explained quickly. Amara listened, then looked at Alexei with the same assessing gaze she'd developed over years of navigating this world. Can you verify what he's saying? She asked Hyun. Give me an hour. They returned inside. Hyun made calls from a private room. His network, now used for legitimate purposes but still extensive, confirmed Alexei's story. His younger brother, 19, grabbed off a Moscow street 3 days ago, trafficking network known for moving victims through Southeast Asia. Hyun returned to the terrace where Alexei waited. It's real, Hyun said, but helping you means using resources I've tried to leave behind, calling in favors from people I'd rather forget. I know what I'm asking. Amara stepped beside Hyun. What do you want to do? Hyun looked at her, at the life they'd built, at the man he'd become, at the choice before him. The right thing, he said finally, even if it's hard. Within 6 hours, they'd assembled a team, not criminals, former military contractors Hyun had relationships with through legitimate security consulting. The operation was surgical. Hyun's injury limited his physical participation, but his strategic mind remained sharp. Amara coordinated communications, tracking movements through the network she'd built, managing their foundation's international programs. "You're not going without me," Amara said, when Hyun tried to convince her to stay behind. "This isn't your fight. Everything you fight is my fight. We decided that years ago." They located Alexei's brother in a warehouse outside Vancouver. The rescue took 18 minutes, precision timing, minimal force, 0 casualties. When they delivered the young man safely to Alexei, the Russian's composure finally cracked. "You could have let him die," Alexei said, voice thick. "After everything my family did to yours. Why didn't you?" "Because I'm not the man I used to be," Hyun replied simply. Alexei studied him for a long moment. "You're better. That's somehow more terrifying than when you were dangerous." "I'm still dangerous. I just choose what I'm dangerous to." They parted ways, not as allies, but no longer as enemies. A tentative peace built on mutual respect rather than fear. On the flight home, Amara watched Hyun stare out the window. "You'll never fully leave this world, will you?" she asked quietly. "No." Hyun took her hand, "but I can choose what I do with it. Help instead of harm, protect instead of destroy, use what I know for something better. I can live with that. Can you? I married you knowing who you were, who you'd been. I'm not afraid of your past, Hyun. I'm proud of who you're becoming despite it." 5 years later, Zara was 9, sharp, observant, asking questions that got harder to answer. Elijah was 3, quieter than her sister, but with the same intensity in his eyes. They were at the family estate for Sunday dinner. Tasha, Hyejin, Kamari with his wife, their infant daughter. 3 generations around one table. After dinner, while the adults talked, Zara approached Hyun in his study. "Dad?" He looked up from paperwork. "What's up, sweetheart?" "Grandma Hyejin told me something." Zara's expression was serious. "She said you used to be dangerous, that people were scared of you." Hyun's chest tightened. He'd known this conversation would come eventually, just hoped it would be later. "Were you bad?" Zara asked, "before you met Mom?" Hyun glanced toward the door where Amara stood, having heard the question. How did they answer? Hyun set down his pen and gave Zara his full attention. Amara entered the study, closing the door behind her. "Come here, sweetheart," Hyun said, gesturing to the chair beside him. Zara climbed up, eyes wide and serious. "Your grandmother is right," Hyun began carefully. "I did things I'm not proud of. I hurt people, made choices that still keep me awake some nights." "Why?" "Because I thought that's what strength looked like. I thought being feared meant being powerful." He glanced at Amara. "But then I met your mother, and she showed me a better way." "So you were bad, but Mom made you good?" Amara knelt beside Zara. "He was lost. We found each other. Sometimes people need help seeing who they really are underneath all the pain." Zara processed this with the seriousness only children possess. "Are you still dangerous?" "In some ways, yes, but now I use that to protect people instead of hurt them. Like when you helped Uncle Alexei's brother?" Hyun blinked, surprised. "You know about that?" "I hear things," Zara smiled. "I'm good at listening." "Too good," Amara said, ruffling her daughter's hair. "Just like your father." They'd built something rare, a life after violence, a legacy beyond blood and fear. Their children were being raised to be strong but kind, powerful but compassionate, to know their family's complicated history without being defined by it. Later that evening, after the kids were asleep, Hyejin found Amara in the garden. "I wanted to thank you," Hyejin said quietly, "for saving my son. He saved me first, gave me a reason to believe in something bigger than survival." "No," Hyejin's voice was firm. "You made him human again. That's a gift I couldn't give him. His father certainly couldn't. You did." Tasha joined them, moving slower now, but still sharp-eyed. "My grandbabies are beautiful," Tasha said, looking through the window at Zara and Elijah's sleeping forms. "That's enough for me." Amara knew what her mother meant. Not forgiveness. Tasha would never fully forgive what the Kong family had taken from her, but acceptance, peace, a recognition that the present mattered more than the past. The foundation they'd built in Marcus Bennett's name had grown beyond anything they'd imagined. Thousands of scholarships, safe housing for families escaping violence, job training programs, rehabilitation services. A community center in Tacoma bore Marcus's name, a place where kids like Kamari had been could find support, opportunity, hope. His legacy lived on, transformed from tragedy into purpose. Saturday morning, 6 months later, Hyun attempted to make pancakes. Badly. "You're burning them," Amara said, laughing as she rescued the pan. "I'm adding character. You're adding carbon." Zara and Elijah argued over who got the last strawberry, their voices carrying through the house, normal sibling chaos that made both parents smile. This was what they'd fought for. Not power, not empire. Just this. Ordinary moments filled with love. That evening, on the balcony overlooking the city they'd both bled for, Amara leaned against Hyun. "Do you ever think about how we started?" she asked. "The lies, the pain, the impossible odds?" "Every day," Hyun admitted. "But I also think about where we are now, and I'd go through it all again." "Even the part where you called that night a mistake?" Hyun smiled, genuine, warm, the expression of a man who'd found peace. "Especially that part. Best mistake I ever made." Zara burst onto the balcony. "Dad, teach me Korean, the formal verb conjugations you promised." Elijah followed. "Mom, tell me a story in Swahili about Grandpa Marcus." They were teaching their children both languages, both cultures, creating something new from two worlds that should never have connected. A true blend, a living bridge. The family settled together as the sun set over Seattle, Hyun explaining grammar, Amara weaving stories of a grandfather the children would never meet but would always know, Zara and Elijah absorbing every word. Together, safe, whole. The end. Thank you for joining K-Stories by Emma for this incredible journey. If you loved this story, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support means everything. Until next time, believe in love, fight for what matters, and never give up on redemption. This is Emma signing off.